Usually, the journey was the same. He'd start at Columbia University and head south on Broadway, just taking his time, hoofing it through the Upper West Side, into Times Square, around the Village, past City Hall, all the way down to Battery Park. The Broadway excursion took the whole afternoon. Every block, every step, he found something interesting to look at. A shop, a building, a celebrity. That was a walk. And you could repeat it all over Manhattan, in almost any direction. New York is a great walking town. Chicago, on the other hand, well, you've got the lakefront, from Hyde Park to Hollywood Avenue, and that's pretty lively, at least in summer. And then there are patches of mild interest, hippified Wicker Park, the magnificent mile of North Michigan Avenue, the old struggling loop with a surviving Louis Sullivan building here and there, sparkling jewels compared to the blocks that have been turned black and dead by Mies. And in between are vast stretches of vapidity. Close your eyes and you don't miss a thing. Sitting at his desk, Lincoln closes his eyes. But try telling that to Professor Fleece, thinks Lincoln. The old coot is so decrepit, it's probably been decades since he left his University of Chicago office. In the geography department, naturally. The one time Lincoln visited him, the professor never got up from his desk, just sat there, a small clump of moldy clothes in clashing patterns topped by a scraggly white fur ball. But Fleece desperately wanted to bring out an update of his walking book. The 1987 edition offered only 26 rambles. And who better to publish him than Pistakee Press, friend of every hack, windbag, and literary aspirant who ever thumbed through a thesaurus. Eyes open again. Back to Tour 19. As we advance down the block, we find the imperious red form of the Chicago History Museum, its memorabilia-filled cavernous bulk secreting an imposing St. Gaudens statue of our beloved 16th president, standing in a small garden just behind the building. John Lincoln's pencil is poised over the word secreting when a knock intrudes on his office door. "Yes?" he calls out irritably. A compact round head with sandy hair peeks in. "Do you have a second?" asks Byron Duddleston, the owner of Pistakee Press. "Of course," says Lincoln, quickly stiffening at the sight of his boss. Come in, or advance, as Professor Fleece would say." The owner takes a few steps into the small office, then pauses, lifts his chin, and sniffs the air. Given Duddleston's light brown coloring and taut, sinewy body, Lincoln thinks of a small woodland animal. "I wish they'd settle this damn garbage strike," Duddleston says. "The smell is starting to seep inside." "Right," says Lincoln, wondering why he hadn't noticed. "Please have a seat." The two men sit and face each other over Lincoln's desk, a chaotic landscape of manuscripts, magazines, books, reference materials, and a computer. Duddleston is carrying a thick manuscript bound by a fat rubber band. "How are things going?" he asks. Something shop-worn and familiar about the manuscript in Duddleston's lap makes Lincoln uneasy. Fine, he tells his boss. "I've been working on Professor Fleece's walking book. A nice job, really. I'm just trying to tighten it up a bit." "He's a beloved figure at the school," Duddleston interrupts. "In my time, students used to camp out in the halls overnight to be in line to sign up for his class on the geography of Illinois." "I always wished I'd taken that course," Lincoln lies. "Some teachers, they just have a way of looking at the world that stays with you," Duddleston muses. "In my time, the U of C was full of men like that. Women, too." He ticks off a few names, some faintly familiar to Lincoln. "I don't know if you had that experience there." Right, Lincoln nods eagerly. He wants to volley back the names of a few of his treasured U of C teachers, but his mind is suddenly scoured clean. He can't think of a single professor he studied under, even though, at 33, he's probably 15 years younger than his boss. "Well," Duddleston says, shifting warily in his chair, getting to the unfortunate point of his visit, "I wanted to talk to you about your editing on Bill Lemke's book on Wrigley Field." "Yes?"